Starting this webinar.
Okay.
Welcome, friends. Let me request Madam Vijayalakshmi, our Secretary General, to share the first few words and then move on to President, and then I'll start the panel.
Sure.
Over,
Thank you,
Vijayalakshmi.
Mr. Anand. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Anand. Good morning to all the participants, and thank you very much for joining us today. And of course, the program has been, fine-tuned in such a short notice. And today we are having this webinar on post COVID-19 impact on MSMEs, pros and cons. What are the pros, what are the cons that we are going to discuss about? And we have with us three panelists by name, Mr. Rajesh Srinivasan, he is a marketing strategist and virtual CMO, and Dr. Raja Amarnath, MD from Pulmonology and Critical Care from Apollo, and Mr. Gopal Nathan, partner, Mrs. GN and Co. He is a chartered accountant. And they are going to talk about the various perspectives from their point of view, like Mr. Rajesh from marketing point of view, Dr. Raja from health point of view, and Mr. Gopalakrishnan from financial point of view, because all these things are very important. And what exactly is this impact on this corona and during this time, and then how we all have to be together, and then how we all have to take these precautionary measures. All these things will be discussed, and I thank Mr. Anand for conceptualizing this and then making it a good program in such a short notice. Thank you, Mr. Anand. And I now request our President, Dr. V.L. Indira Dutt, to please welcome the participants. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning to all.
Good morning, ma'am.
First, you are all sitting at home, safe and sound, following the precautionary measures to prevent you from affecting this coronavirus. I'm happy to welcome you all to this first webinar organized by Andhra Chamber of Commerce. As we all know, more than 200 countries and territories are reported with novel corona pandemic. Who is working closely with global experts, governments, and other health organizations to provide advice to the committee about precautionary and preventive measures. And in spite of this, the virus is on the increase more and more in other countries like US, Spain, and Italy. Up to a large extent, it will impact the Indian industry in imports, and dependence of India on China is huge. Of the top 20 products at the 2-digit of HS code that India imports from the world, China accounts to a significant share in most of them. It has been seen that some sectors of India have been impacted by the outbreak of coronavirus in China, including shipping, pharmaceuticals, automobiles, mobiles, electronics, textiles, etc. Also, a supply chain may affect some disruptions associated with industries and markets. Overall, there will be a great impact of coronavirus in the industry and more on MSMEs. FICCI survey shows 53% of Indian businesses have indicated a marked impact on COVID-19 on business options, and 42% of respondents said that up to 3 months could take for normalcy to return. To combat with coronavirus, Indian government extended the date of lockdown till 3rd May 2020. Considering the need of the hour, the chamber felt that a webinar can be organized on panelists on past COVID-19 impact on MSMEs, pros and cons from various perspectives, that is from financial angle, from the industry angle, and also from the health hazard after COVID-19. We have with us today the panelist, Mr. Rajesh Srinivasan, Dr. Raja Amarnath, and Mr. Gopalakrishnan Nateshan today to discuss the various aspects, and webinar will be moderated by Mr. M.K. Anand, Chairman of MSME and ICT Subcommittee of the Chamber. I welcome all the Executive Committee members and the industry members who have joined this important session. Welcome to you all once again. I invite Mr. M.K. Anand to introduce the panelists and start the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you very much for your wonderful introduction. The short notice, Madam is able to come online in the WebEx platform and able to inspire us with introduction. There are about 45 participants are attending this webinar. It's a great news. So happened like when we conduct such webinars, such seminars normally, which we do every month, first Wednesday in our Chamber of Commerce. We ought get about 25 to 30 participants. Today we have 45 participants. So there is also some amount of positivity which COVID has actually showered on us, in spite of all the challenges and struggles we undergo. With this basic introduction, I'd like to move on to the session. So you could see this screen where the new normal approach, which all of us are experiencing. Today we are celebrating the
Okay.
once again, we are celebrating the sanitary workers, we are celebrating police, we are celebrating medicos, healthcare professionals and technicians. Today the drones are becoming new normal, which is capturing all the insights from the market 1,000 feet above. So this is all something which we have not experienced in the past. This is something which is happening now, which is going to happen more and more down the line. I welcome three panelists. Normally, when we conduct such seminars offline mode, we always used to have only one speaker comes in front of us. Thanks to this COVID-19 and digital exposure, that we have three panelists. There are three speakers, eminent speakers, and one is, I would say, with permission of other two speakers, is a real hero because he's a doctor. Not just a doctor who goes and does the physical physician kind of a support. I'm not demeaning anybody. He is a person who visits a COVID unit of Apollo Vanagra as a senior consultant and pulmonology specialist, because this particular challenge is actually belongs to his domain. So it's so inspiring that he is able to support us by coming online in his full attire from COVID ward. Dr. Raja, thank you very much for joining us. And we have Mr. Rajesh Srinivasan. He's a marketing strategist and virtual chief marketing officer for many organizations and an author. He wrote a book on marketing. He has brought out several insights which we have been discussing for the last 3-4 days. He will throw some light on that with respect to how are we going to handle post-COVID support system on the marketing front. And we have Mr. Gopala Krishna Dadesan, whom we call fondly Gopal or Ganesh. And he's a chartered accountant. He's a 4th generation chartered accountant in the family. His grandfather, his uncle, his father, himself. He's a 4th generation chartered accountant, and he was briefly with Deloitte as well during his articleship. And now he's going to talk something on banking and finance on post-COVID support system. With this, I'd like to first give a small e-memento to all the three panelists. This is Dr. Raja's e-memento, sir. Sir, we will definitely take a printout and properly package it and hand it over at your home. This is the e-memento for Mr. Rajesh Srinivasan from Andhra Chamber. And this is e-memento for Mr. Gopala Krishna Dadesan. Thank you very much. Now let me get on to my business. I'd like to start with a note that we represent, rather I represent, and my colleague in the chamber, my co-chairman, Mr. Prashant, who is also here. We represent MSMEs, and we echo the voice of MSMEs. We believe that MSMEs are equally important like healthcare workers or medicos, if I may say so. How doctors and healthcare workers, medicos are actually supporting us for our existential problems. Whether we live or not, a support system is required from medicos and healthcare workers. But that is for the existential problem. When it comes to leading our life, you need essential service providers. So from all walks of life, right from your morning milk packet deliverer, right up to your the guy who's manufacturing auto components to drive your car for your luxury. Everything is supported as a part of a supply chain by the MSMEs largely. As you know, MSMEs are very large sector in the country after the agriculture. We are employing about 114 million people in the MSME sector. We are contributing 30 to 35% on GDPs of the country, and 75 million MSMEs are the country. This is all the size of MSME sector. But what are the support system? What are the ecosystem is being built for MSMEs is always questionable. It's always debatable in many forums. There are three stakeholders, I believe. One is the government, policymakers, and banks. Second is the industry, the large industry who consumes MSMEs inputs, raw materials for their production. Third is the civil society and general public in common, that is you and me. How are we really looking at these two sectors, healthcare and MSMEs, is what we are going to discuss as part of our panel discussion. The main course of panel discussion is going to begin now. I will start with before that the statistics. This is the latest statistics till yesterday, that we have 17,615 coronavirus cases, 559 people died in India, 2,854 people recovered back. This is the status as on yesterday morning I captured. Of course, because of Corona, everything is closed except few essential services. With this, I like to start with the round one of our panel discussion. The round one, where I have a question for all the three panelists. I'll start with Dr. Raja Amarnath. The picture, what you see in the slide, is actually Dr. Raja Amarnath. Dr. Raja Amarnath, who visited COVID-19 unit of Apollo Hospital, Vanagaram. So this is how they go around to meet people, patients and do service. And of course, one of the pictures on the left top bottom is actually his organizations, one of the ICU services in rural India. So with this, I'd like to start a question to Dr. Raja. Are you ready, sir? Okay. The context for you is, sir, hygiene factors and social behavior have become forefront of our of this world, not only India. Even developed countries are not better than India, as we could see through the present media. In fact, we are much ahead of time, much ahead of many of them in terms of rules and regulations, which is, following the rules and regulations of the government. The infra and prevention kits for medicos and health workers are always on debate in many forums which we are seeing. We are no inferior to developed countries, as I could see, as some data flows through the media and press. In this scenario, Dr. Raja, I'd like to ask you this question. Would you please show some light or enlighten us on the possible comfort which we can envisage post-COVID and post-lockdown scenario? We are all talking about current scenario. I'd like to look at a little forward. After May 3rd, when government says lockdown is over, and you all can open your offices, your factories and all that, what kind of health hazards are expected? Because MSME, typically speaking, they are not a greenhouse offices. And we are a 1-member team to a 100-member team. Very, you look at retail, look at trading organization, look at Broadway, you go to Chennai Broadway, main bazaar. These are all organizations where shopkeepers, establishments, small companies where hundreds of people working. We don't have a big infrastructure to immediately buy and support in terms of hygiene part. But yet we are expected to do. So what kind of health hazards are going to be there? And how are we going to mitigate it? And what are your inputs for MSMEs to cope up with this current challenge? Over to you, sir.
As far as the current situation is concerned, India is definitely leading the world with respect to how efficiently we can manage the system, and also based on the standard of lifestyles, not with respect to the luxurious lifestyles, but based on the so-called healthy lifestyles with respect to the syncing with nature. How it ultimately helps to people is the proof that we are seeing now, that how India is able to tackle this problem. It might be actually because of lockdown or because of government policies or because of the medicines that are available in India that we are comfortable currently. Probably because of our basic lifestyles, which yet to people have to dig deeper to identify what is the real reason, because even the medical world is now wondering why such a better situation compared to world. That is number one. That's a comforting thing. Second thing is what we see in the hospitals, because I am inside the sanctum sanctorum of the place, where when I see, even though we are worried about the number of patients, that every day you count saying 300, 400, 500 added every day, 80% of them are actually extremely comfortable, which means they are just inside a room, hospital room, and just they are on paracetamol, that's all, for fever. Otherwise, they are absolutely comfortable. Roughly around 1% of people, and most of them have been having some sort of sickness already, like cardiac problem, uncontrolled diabetes, chronic respiratory compromise, kidney failure patients, cancer patients, people who are already on chemotherapy, post-surgical patients. These are the people who are actually getting hit hard, which may not be actually because of COVID. You see, when you look at the overall scenario, in the winter seasons, whenever people catch any viral infection, any bacterial infection, maybe dengue, maybe swine flu, anything, these are the groups of people who get affected most. The situation what we are seeing now shows that the people without any comorbids, even elderly people but with good immunity and without much of pre-existing organ damage, recovering well and recovering faster. It's complete recovery, no residual damage. That's very important. You see, there are many diseases where you recover. Let us say TB, for example. When you recover from TB, there is always a residual damage in the lung. Whereas people who recover from this current COVID, if they recover within 2 to 3 weeks, not going up to the level of ICU and ventilator, they are recovering completely. So that's a comforting thing. But there is the flip side of the coin, because that's what your second part of your question deals with. What will happen when we open, when the lockdown is over? It's not that virus is going to get eradicated in these 21 or 35 days of lockdown. It is not possible like that. Either you have to get treatment, or you have to get vaccine, or you have to develop immunity. Our virus has to be eliminated completely, like how we did for smallpox in olden days, how we have been trying for polio nowadays. Almost polio is at the verge of its elimination. So like that, COVID is, we are very far from getting it done as far as COVID is concerned. We are hardly 100 days of, we have been seeing COVID for 100 days, that's all. Having said that, what will happen after you open up the lockdown? So people will start meeting people again. So we can see rise of, cases again. The exercise that we have done in the last couple of months was because to cut down the peak. Imagine 130 crores of Indians left alone. One peculiar thing with COVID is because being a new virus, its attack rate is very high. Attack rate means if 100 people get affected, how many people are actually getting affected? The infection is coming to how many people is what is called attack rate. So if 100 people get affected, exposed to a person with infection, 40 to 50 people will get affected. It is not so with other viruses. Now what happens? If 50 crores of population gets affected, for example, out of which roughly 10%, which means 5 crores will go to hospitals, out of which 2 crores will require ICU. We don't have those many ICU beds. Out of which 1 crore will eventually definitely die. To cut down that, our people have done lockdown. That's all. So when you open up, cases will increase, will rise, especially for the areas like, what you said, your companies, organizations, where you have to have hundreds and thousands of people working together. One person is enough with the disease to, infect other people. That is why people are worried about, this problem. When it opens up, what is the solution for this? There are some solutions for this. There is a way of working for that. Probably, time permits, I will be able to explain. I hope you have given roughly around 5 minutes for each participant. I have already exceeded my time.
Thank you, Dr. Raja. One sub question I'll ask connected to the first question so that it covers the entire answer. The vaccine, they say it takes about a year or so. There is no vaccine. That's the biggest challenge for this problem, I guess.
Correct.
So, keeping that in view, what kind of steps MSMEs are supposed to take is what is going to be your next question. So, before that, I will move on. Before you answer, I will go to the next panelist, Mr. Rajesh, on the marketing front. Mr. Rajesh, I'd like to take your views on. I'm going to unmute you 1 minute. Rajesh, are you able to listen? My audio and video is fine with you? You can say hello. Okay. Rajesh, I'm going to take one input with you. Before that, I'd like to open this slide so that it connects the dots. 1 minute, all of you. So, Rajesh, if you could see the slide here, which talks about the 2020. Of course, just we completed March financial year supposedly. Look at the years 2021, 22, 23, kind of a projection they've mentioned. This I've taken it from UN, which is a source. Look back our GDP in Q4 of 2019. We had settled down, rather we declined to 4.5%. And whereas if you look at all the way back in Q1 of 2015, we were Q4 of 17-18, we actually moved to 7.9%. In 17-18, from 17-18 Q4 7.9% to Q4 of 2019, we declined to 4.5% on various reasons. This is before COVID. People have about health pandemic, and next version is going to be an economic pandemic. That's the main objective. That's the main theme of this workshop as well. I would like to ask you this question: as an entrepreneur, as an MSME entrepreneur, startup entrepreneur, a small organization, what kind of marketing strategy people have to look up to during this crisis time? Can you please show some light on this, throw some ideas on this?
Sure.
Over to you.
First of all, good morning to all the participants.
Rajesh,
am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes.
Good morning to all the participants, and I sincerely thank.
You are audible. Go ahead, Rajesh.
Am I audible? Hello.
Go ahead, Rajesh. You are audible. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning to everyone. Thank you so much, Andhra Chamber of Commerce, Chairman, and all the committee members, and Anand for this opportunity. First of all, as we noticed, meanwhile, Anand, can you just open up that slide, the first one? I will continue my conversation. As we have seen, the GDP rate for the last years already it is dipping. Even before the COVID world, it was it was not doing well. So now, because of this pandemic, it has even taken a huge hit. So directly coming to the point, Anand, that slide you're able to open?
Yeah, I opened it. You're able to see?
I'm not able to see.
1 second.
What MSMEs can do in this situation, in this macroeconomic situation, is can you just make it full slide version, Anand? Full slider?
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. So this is what even government is trying to do, and even at an individual we are trying to do in this situation. I've drawn this cartoon just to uh, give some perspective as to what everyone is trying to do at this point of time. So we are just trying to, earlier, if you notice, at the beginning of the pandemic, our pendulum has swung so far on the health side. We were all panicking. We were all worried about what will happen, and we have taken extreme measures. So now I think even the government, even we as business owners have started thinking about the next side of the coin, which is economic side of the coin. So what I foresee is keeping this in mind. There are two perspectives emerge. There are two trends which people are generally talking about, experts and industry experts and thought leaders. Number one side is the world is going to change extremely post-COVID. There will be a new normal. Everything is going to be changed. They take extreme position. Another point of view is, there is no need to show this now. You can close this. Yeah. And one side is extreme new normal. Everything is going to be new post-COVID. We need to make rapid changes. On the other side, certain people still believe that things will become old. This will get subdued. Everything will become old normal. So new normal versus old normal. But what I see is we need to take a neutralized stand as business owners in terms of when we devise our marketing strategies or any business strategy for that matter. The reason is purely from marketing standpoint, especially when we compare India with other Western countries, we are totally health conscious. Americans are still fighting against social distancing. We are watching that in news, right? So they are not comfortable in staying in their home. Still, they are facing 1,500 deaths every day. But still, there is a group of people, huge amount of people who don't support social distancing. In fact, as Dr. Raja clearly said, the main reason why our health care systems didn't get overwhelmed is because of this lockdown. Otherwise, the thing which we are seeing as people also, as citizens also, we have clearly adopted wholeheartedly to this lockdown system, and that is the primary reason. So when we open up, what will happen, as we expected, our consumer behavior, we will not take extreme routes. People will not adapt the entire new normal. At the same time, we will not be able to go back to our standard way of living which we did in the past. There will be a mid path where we strive hard. Our emotions will push. I'm talking about purely from consumer perspective. Our emotions will pull us back to live a normal life which we did pre-COVID. But the fear and the healthcare awareness, or we call it as FUD in marketing, or the fear, uncertainty, and doubt about this situation will definitely push us back to live and adapt into the new normal. So keeping this in mind, what we foresee in marketing is how companies can adapt into the new sentiments, needs, and preferences of the customer. Definitely, we have changed a lot. If you notice, over the last 21 days, 30 days, during the initial period, we have all struggled during the lockdown. We faced huge challenges, but we have learned to live without going to malls during the weekend. We did really well without a newer smartphone or a newer outfit. We have even survived without going to a beauty parlor and hairdressers. We still look okay. We have adopted. We are normal. Another key thing which has happened in this 30 things, we have come to a realization. People have come to a realization that they can live with less. Or conspicuous consumption, this is what we call, right? So we certainly don't need certain things. Those are called conspicuous consumption. So now we are more into conscious consumption. We We buy things only we need because of this lockdown. When things open up, that's when the challenge comes for the marketers and business owners. How we are going to face this new customers. Customers still want to go to restaurant. Customers still want to go to movies. Customers still want to do the older way of things, but in a newer way. For example, if you take, I'll give you one critical theme which might emerge: non-touch.
Rajesh, you can take another 1 minute.
Community gathering places like hotels, restaurants, and aeroplanes. How we are going to use it? So how thermal screening, we are going to use other new technologies to check all those healthcare settings, how we are going to do office meetings, religious meetings. So all this comes into question. So the number one question which all the entrepreneurs, business owners, and marketers need to ask is how we are going to serve our customers, how we are going to be relevant with regards to our own products and services. What are the alterations which we are going to make in our products to stay relevant in the marketplace for the consumers who are fearful about their healthcare, health systems, and the new way of buying things. That's it, Anand. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Rajesh, with the more questions on the round 2 and round 3. You have set the context in terms of we need to start thinking about what we call new normal, as they say. Thank you very much, Rajesh. I'll now move on to the third panelist. Is Mr. Gopal Krishnan Nadesan. So, I will stop this slide. I will move this slide. Mr. Ganesh Gopal, would you like me to load your slide now? Gopal, are you audible? Am I audible to you, Gopal? All of you, please give me a couple of seconds. Gopal, are you available there? Give me a minute. I'm just checking. I think Gopal went out, and let me wait for him to join. And by the time I take a question to Dr. I can finish the round 2 to save time for all of us. Is it okay, Dr. Raja? Dr. Raja, can I take your question? Can I take the second round for you? Will comes back?
Sir, no problem.
Okay. Sir, the question is like this. Let's look into the practicality of the SME sector. I'm only looking at the post-COVID and post-lockdown scenario. Give us a walkthrough situation, walkthrough procedure. Okay, Mr. Gopal has joined. Can I just take his round 1 question, Raja, if you don't mind?
No problem.
Okay. Mr. Gopal, are you there? Mr. Gopal, are you there? Mr. Gopal, okay? Mr. Gopal? Mr. Gopal, I think you've joined, right? Mr. Gopal? Mr. Gopal, are you there? Mr. Gopal? Gopal Krishnan has joined, yes? Yeah, you are audible. Yeah, you are there, right?
I'm really sorry. I have a problem.
No. Yeah.
I have to go back to my alternate system.
Okay. Can I pose the question to you?
Absolutely, sir. Feel free. Now, just want to check whether my audio and my video is clear.
Everything is perfect. I'm going to pose a question to you right now.
please feel free. Thank you, sir. Thanks.
1 second. So this is going to be your. This is going to be the context for your third question. See, the big brother is standing there on my left, who is government, policymakers, bankers, taxation authorities. All these people are trying to give their hand to whom we call the humble, simple MSMEs, the business owners. I was going through the package what was shared by RBI governor and finance minister package, what they are talking about to support MSMEs in terms of schemes, the banking services, the moratorium, all that. But still, I find there's a lot of gaps. I'm not too sure whether really it's going to support MSMEs. There are a lot of already the voices are coming up from different sectors of MSME. So how do you look at the gap between the policymakers and the MSMEs in terms of their schemes and services to MSMEs? Your question is the do's and don'ts checklist as bullet points for entrepreneurs with respect to finance, banking, and GST compliances during and after post-COVID situation. Over to you.
Absolutely, sir. So just want your small help. Can you just share the slide one that I shared you just about some time back?
1 minute. I'll open it.
First, we can show the slide one, and then we can move on to the slide two.
Yeah, is it okay?
I couldn't see right now.
Yeah.
Can I just put it on a presentation mode? Yeah. Thank you, sir. So first of all, before I start on these points, so these are the COVID has been a challenging part for the entrepreneurs, even for our own practice per se. The business, the operations, and from a finance angle, it's been a completely new challenge. We'll have to rethink the way the business has to be operated, the finance has to be managed. We'll have to completely rethink every aspect that we have been doing all along over the course of 10 years. Because it is these tough times, any small mistake from our side will be, we'll face the real wrath of it actually. So we'll have to be careful about every step that we do right now. So from the immediate points that we should focus on a finance perspective, I have compiled a list of points which will be helpful for the MSME and the entrepreneurs per se. First, the business has been locked down for about 1.5 months or 2 months per se, and we are expecting the business to open up on the 4th of May. First of all, we should ensure we have a minimum liquidity of funds in hand to kickstart the operation. It can be paid, we have to procure the raw materials to start the operation, we have to pay our staff. So we have to ensure a minimum liquidity of funds we have when we resume our operations on the 4th of May. That's going to be the first point. Second point is we'll have to analyze our existing levels of stock. The stocks has been untouched for about 2 to 3 months right now. So we'll have to go analyze our stock and check for some non-moving items and just find ways to clear it as fast as possible through discounts and promotional schemes. Because clearing the non-moving items will definitely help you in your liquidity position, which can help you over the next 2 months. And then moving on to the next part, we will have to plan our salary cost. For most of the organization, the salary is the biggest, the fixed cost.
Yes.
Yes. Now, how to manage that, how to handle that is going to be a big challenge. And we don't have visibility yet on when the business is going to start, how the business is going to be after the lockdown. So planning the salary cost is going to be a challenge. Again, on salary cost, the frequent question that I have been getting from my clients or from the people I know is, should we pay salary? Are we mandated to pay salary? Can I waive my salary? Can I reduce my salary? I get all sorts of questions. For all those questions, I will give my personal opinion is we should not reduce the salary. This is the moment that we should support our staffs and employees who are like our extended family. We should stick to our salary commitment to our staff during these tough times, is my personal opinion, and have a small solution on that front. Assuming if you don't have any cash flow, you don't have any money to pay your salary beyond the month of April or May, you can have an arrangement with your staff whereby you can say you can pay say about 25% or 50% upfront, and you can postpone the remaining 50% to a later stage. Just have a consultation with your staff, or pay a minimum bit right now, say about 25% or 50% right now, and the balance can be paid when the cash flow and the business position improves in the coming months. That's on the salary part. You will have to re-estimate your fixed cost other than the salary. So on the other fixed cost, you will have to be absolutely frugal just to keep it as low as possible. So just see its essentiality of those fixed costs to your day-to-day business operations. Just incur those fixed costs alone for the next few months. So any other luxury expenses or any other kind of fixed cost, just push it for the next, beyond the 6 month period. And then, as business people, you have to take a relook at your existing level of margins and your customer quotation. This is purely from a strategical perspective. On this perspective, I would also like to say the Apple strategy, which is now considering now to deploy a low-cost model iPhone in this scenario to capture the current market. This is just to throw some perspective on the subject matter. And then moving on, we will also have to take a relook at our capex plans, which we had in mind before the COVID was a bigger problem. Now we'll have to take up each of your capex plan and see if we'll have to do that immediately right now, or we can postpone that by say about 4 months or 5 months, or in some cases we can even stagger it. We can implement our capex plans on a stage by stage basis. That we can do. And the next most important thing is, as business people, you should be aware of something called as the monthly break-even point. When you know your salary cost, when you know your fixed cost, when you know your constant level of margins, you should be in a position to determine your break-even point. When I say what is a break-even point, what is the minimum level of sales or the service revenue that has to be generated on a month-on-month basis for the next few months, so that my fixed cost and salary for that month is recovered. So this should be a minimum benchmark. You should achieve at least that. You achieving more than that is going to be a pleasant scenario. So know what your break-even point and ensure you are targeting your minimum break-even point for the next few months. And moving on to the operation sides, these are difficult scenarios. You have to visualize your operations from end to end, from the procurement stage, from the manufacturing stage, from the packing stage, from the delivery stage. You have to visualize it end to end and just have a plan in place to overcome each challenges at each stage of your business and ensure that you don't have any trouble post-May 3rd when the business is ready to open. And then it's critical that you consolidate your existing customer base where you have frequent interactions and communications, so that you keep in touch with them and ensure the revenue from them is in good progress even after the lockdown stage. And then finally, you should be aware of the government norms that are in place, that should be in place once the business resumes. I'm sure after May 3rd, the business will resume. But even then, there will be some minimum norms and some conditions should be given by the government department as to how the workplace should be managed, what kind of hygiene should be in place. We should be aware of that and we should implement those in our organization. In this context, I would like to say that yesterday, the Ministry of MSME has sent an email to all MSME registered persons, whereby they are given a standard operating procedure as to how a workplace should be there in these kind of scenario. So every MSME entrepreneur can go through the SOP and take it as a base material, and then you can make some suitable changes relevant to your organization. And in this point, you should also be aware of something called the MSME helpline that is again being created by the Ministry of MSME, where you can escalate any kind of issues you face at the state level, central level, or any support issues from a government organization, because you are going to find some kind of impediments when you start your businesses. Feel free to escalate that to the ministry and we will expect them to resolve it at the earliest. This is from a finance, cost margin, and an operational perspective. And moving on to the part 2. Anand sir, can you go to the part 2, slide 2?
Okay, now I think the time is little exceeding for the round 1 for your question. Is it okay if you can club that as a second round, second question? Is it fine with you?
Difficult. Probably I'll just run through my points in slide
2. Okay, quickly, if you can take only 2 minutes, I think it's fine with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to quickly summarize, so I think the question also covers what are the immediate points from a GST perspective. So I'll just quickly run through due to shortage of time. Just be aware of your revised due dates for the GST returns and ensure the returns are filed within time to avoid any interest and late fees. And the GST department has liberalized the matching of monthly. Can you come to the previous slide? The GST department has ensured that you don't have to match your input credit on a month-on-month basis for the month of February to August. So take input though if it's not reflected in the 2A, but you will have to reconcile it on a month-on-month basis so that you can ensure that you will not have any problem in the month of September when it has to be reconciled on a consolidated basis. And the GST refund application, which are expiring during the lockdown, stands extended to 30th June 2020. And the GST department has also issued a circular on 13th April regarding refund or adjustment of GST paid on advances which are subject to cancellation. The validity of existing letter of undertaking has been extended to 30th June 2020. So you have a breather for the next 3 months. And e-wayables extended between the 20th March and 15th April. The validity of it has been extended to 30th April. The final bit for the exporters is generally the time limit given by the RBI and the FEMA Act to realize the export proceeds is 9 months. They have now increased it to 15 months for all the exports done till 31st July 2020. So these are my quick insights, and sorry for exceeding my time.
Thank you, Gopal. You have extensively covered. I think I can share these slides to all the participants. I'm very happy to share that about 75, I think 71 now. 71 participants are attending this webinar. That's something which is great support by all the members. I will share these PPTs and slides to all the members who are attending this webinar. And quickly, I could call Gopal, go frugal, pay your salaries on time, and have a good relationship and maintain the liquidity and spend wisely. These are some of the important management wisdom you have shared. Thank you so much. I'll move on to this round 2 with Dr. Raja. Are you ready, sir, Dr. Raja? I'll go to Dr. Raja for this question. Dr. Raja, the question is like, let's get into the straight to the business. Like the moment May 3rd has come, once the offices are opening, factories are going to open, when everything is open, when things become almost like a normal, then everybody will start going to offices, travel with two-wheelers, cars, trains, public transport, depending upon the government decision. So when we are going to be out in the market, out in the society, out in the office, what kind of SOPs, standard operating procedures, which every company has to follow? Is there any norms? Is there any inputs from your side? Over to you, sir.
I have one parallel I can draw here for the question that you have asked. What is happening with some of the hospitals that are currently operational? Also some scan centers. You would have seen the news on coverage on those areas. When the hospitals or scan centers were operational, which was actually permitted only. And one of the staff members got affected. Okay, by the time that staff member showed the symptoms, and also by the time they realized that this could be COVID, and then they started testing and they came positive, almost 30-40 people got affected with that. Then what happened? Government came and these healthcare authorities came and they sealed off the scan centers. They closed down, shut down some hospitals. They have issued certain instructions to some of the hospitals. The same thing may not appear with the same intensity with any company or organization that is going to open in future, whatever might be the government norms. As far as the healthcare perspective is concerned, the employees, co-employees will definitely get panicked. So you cannot come back to previous working styles 100% for sure. There should be a different decorum, different operational method altogether. So starting from, let us say, if you want me to walk through, starting from before the employees get inside, before you call them inside to work, probably you need to screen their status first. You have to first exclude people who are at that point of time, having the virus, can be potentially infectious to others. Another step ahead, you may have to this is what we are actually planning to propose to the government. We have had discussions with some of the government authorities who wanted our inputs on how to frame the guidelines. You may have to even screen the family members. Today, my employee, your employee is coming today, he's okay to get inside. What if his family member, somebody is already having the symptom? because this man will show, after 1 week, this man will show the symptoms. So first, the family members or the areas, where that person is going to interact with, then you have to check his status and then allow them to come inside. Maybe regular hygienic methods, whatever has been prescribed, by hand wash, masks, definitely social distancing. I don't know how a software company or certain areas, how they can keep 6 feet distance between people. If that is not possible, probably we may have to advise them to wear, apparels.
New attires.
Yes, probably yes. And then that is not enough, because during the workplace he may be in the new attire, but after the work is over, suppose he is going to a bar and having to have a party with his friends, how are you going to cover that up? How are you going to shield it? So entire social behavior has to be mapped. The best thing is, there is this tendency for human beings, if you don't keep them on track, if you leave it like that, there is every time the tendency to deviate from the track. So probably a regular education, regular counseling, and regular screening. How frequently to screen? We are coming out with a checklist actually. Once with the checklist, if the risk category is crossing a certain limit, maybe that is the time we have to check their status, because you can't check everybody's status every week. No, that will add up on to cost heavily. So you have to have a checklist based on which you have to identify who is at a high risk group, check that person's status, then immediately you isolate that person. By the time itself, all other people would have known that the possibility of all these symptoms, and when they are going to that is called early identification in medical language, and then early screening, and then early diagnosis, and then early quarantine. So these are the things, and then of course treatment. These are the things which are very important when you start off. This is called new normal.
Okay, that's well said, Dr. Raja. But can you elaborate it with a lot of insights? As a takeaway, when we attend these webinars, as a takeaway, we want to have it as a quick 3 things which we need to remember as a business owner. The moment I open an office, my office or factory or a setup, especially my concern is more towards the retail outlets, the bazaar. You take T Nagar, you take all the bazaars which are there in Velachery, Krompet, Tambaram, everywhere, Adyar, T Nagar, everywhere. So the moment the shop is open, hundreds of customers will be walking in, the consumers will be walking in. So we cannot see, we can test our employees, but we cannot see visitors. So what kind of measures one has to really look into? It's a sub question to you.
Social distancing, as of now, that is the only answer. See, logically speaking, first thing is, how are we treating HIV patients? I'm sorry to bring this up, because in healthcare scenario, if we have to manage patients, okay, when they come inside the hospital, once upon a time, we were not considering it as a different entity. Okay, we were treating, and people started having sometimes needle sticks injuries. And more of the healthcare professionals have started developing the problems, the disease per se. Then a new word has been coined called universal precautions, which means a patient who is getting inside the hospital, it can be outpatient, inpatient, surgery, ICU patient, whoever it is. You consider everybody as a potentially positive patient. That's all. So your approach to that patient is like how you would approach to a diagnosed patient. Okay, whether you diagnose or not. So you may not every time diagnose that patient as such, but you should be careful, like wearing gloves. If you are going to do something, double glove. By chance, if you get a pinprick, immediately we go back, test ourselves, and then test the patient, and then start taking the treatment. Similarly, in the same way, in this situation also, first thing is, think that every single customer is is a possible COVID infected patient. I mean, you may not be calling the word patient, person. So that is what people are saying right now. New normal. What is new normal? Same social distancing will be new normal. Okay, where the areas where you may not be able to maintain social distancing, you have to cover yourself. The new apparel should be in place. Probably that is what is going to come in future. Probably even the shops will measure the temperature of people. Where you think a person has high temperatures, maybe you shouldn't. You have to think twice before allowing such person inside. What we are doing currently in hospitals will come into picture for all the organizations in future. You should have, let us say you have a hotel. You know what we are doing in our hospital waiting rooms? You have a 3-seater, you remove the middle seat. You removed. So if 2 people are sitting, there is definitely a 3 feet distance between 2 people. Okay. If we are attending meetings in our hospital, previously in a hall where we would 100 people would sit. Now only 30 people are sitting in that hall. Every seat is placed in such a way that there is 5 or 4 or 5 feet radius distance between 2 seats. Everybody is given mask before they talk. So that is what we are following currently. Unless you get the treatment and you know clearly that disease is under control, probably these are the things which will be called as new normal.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Raja, for showing this. This is really scary because we are not used to all this. So in a bike, our youngsters go 3 people, 4 people for a ride. And this is something really scary. And I think we have to adapt to the current challenges. Thank you very much for showing very good insights as to how we have to socially behave. I think we have to go to the medieval times to practice the old practices of ancient wisdom. So let me quickly move. Now the time is actually 12. We started at 11:15, 11:20 as a panel discussion. After the brief intro, I would be able to take about 30 minutes from now. Thank you very much for all the participants, about 70 participants and seven people in the panelist group. We are 77 people attending this webinar. I'm very glad and happy. I'm sorry, I would be taking a little 30 minutes more. As the scheduled time was 11 and 12. I would be taking up to maybe 12:30 or so max. I'll go to Mr. Rajesh. Mr. Rajesh, are you available? Mr. Rajesh, are you available?
Yeah.
Okay. Rajesh, today everybody talks about in the economic
I'm
circle.
available, Anand. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. In the economic circle, at the macroeconomic circle, right from Mr. Sanjeev, chairman of Hindustan Unilever, to our minister, Mr. Pandirajan, who a couple of days back conducted a webinar. Everybody talks about this concept VUL. Whether after this post-COVID situation, the economy will go into the V mode, or it is going to be a U mode, or it's going to be a L mode. L going to be the completely disaster, kind of depression. U is actually bouncing back, and V is supposedly a takeoff. So with that, that is as a basis in mind, I'd like to ask you this question, Rajesh. What kind of short-term pivot can be explored by MSMEs according to you?
Yeah. Can you just open up the slide, Anand? Yeah.
Yes, Rajesh, go ahead.
From the business of selling and marketing, purely from selling and marketing perspective, I think consumption, as we saw, has taken a hit. So people, non-essential items especially have taken a huge hit, and essential items, yes, we are consuming. But in terms of making some small pivots in both the sides, even essential or non-essential, I'll start with an example of this vegetable vendor who have made it into a news. He is a vegetable vendor from Tirupur, the one which we are seeing in the slide. He has made a special offer saying that 15 rupee worth of tomatoes only for 12 rupees for those who are wearing mask, for his customers who are wearing mask and coming and buying from him. So it's a very short term. He has not changed his business model. His business model is the same. He's selling tomatoes, but he has slightly adopted this wearing mask as a theme into his business. This is just an example. If you go to the other slide, the next one, the next slide, you can change.
Yeah, I have changed.
Yeah.
Able to
Swiggy
see?
and yeah, I'm able to see. Swiggy and Zomato conventionally they deliver restaurant food items to consumers like us. Now they have changed their business model slightly, and now they have tied up with FMCG brands and started delivering grocery items in 125 cities across India. This is the short-term pivot which I have made. It means we have to. They have went back to the boardroom and thought we are just a transport company. They have started operating in a first principles. We were a transport company. Earlier, we used to deliver only foods. Now, coming back to the assumption saying that I am just a transport company, I can even deliver FMCG brands. So, similarly, both on the supply side and at the demand side, each and every business owner can ask questions saying that what Dr. Raja Amarnath has shared is a lot of critical insights in terms of how we are going to operate inside our office, not only inside our office, wherever people meet physically, wherever we have to deliver products physically, I think we need to definitely make some short-term pivots. For example, if you are an FMCG product business, what packaging we have to do, we have to incorporate to take care of the safety measures. If we run a restaurant, if we run everything which we do physically has to be questioned and has to some. I'm not throwing any. I'm just throwing a general concept because as an SME, all the participants may be in different businesses. That is why I'm sharing certain case studies. According to your business, you need to make that tweak. Number two, one specific business which is definitely not affected, which we are seeing, is anything which can be marketed, delivered and consumed online. For example, online courses, no physical connection at all, can be marketed online, can be delivered online, can be consumed online. Fall under this category, it could be consulting or it could be anything for that matter. If you are purely an educational service business where you can do everything in this model, I think it's better to adapt quickly. You don't have to, you can quickly pivot into this model. So that is what I would suggest. So even if you notice even some doctors have started doing online consultation, we could notice that. But how far it will go, I really don't know, because if you ask me from maybe for a follow-up, it may work well. But for a patient who has to go to meet a doctor, he has to do some basic physical checking. So it cannot be fully adopted, but partially they are adopting for the patients whom they are following. I know the patient already, so we can do a follow-up online consultation. This is possible. So how we are going to make the short-term pivot definitely will make or break our business revenue models, at least for the next 3 to 6 months.
Good. Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you for showing this wonderful insights, because I think most of us, in my own personal experience, I started buying vegetables, fruits, everything through online. People come in a vehicle and deliver at home, and they come with a good big box and they deliver, and then they just take the money outside the gate and run away. So the e-marketing, the e-consulting, the e-coaching, the e-businesses are going to be the new norm for many of the industries, not all the industries. See, imagine an automotive sector, manufacturing organization, a lot of workers in the factory environment. Not that they can operate everything is e, but maybe from the management and leaders, perhaps be able to operate through online and digital initiatives. This is going to be a big challenge, of course, but a lot of insights you throw on the retail sector and the trade community on the whole. Let me now move to Mr. Gopalakrishnan. Gopal, are you there? Mr. Gopal, are you available?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir. You can hear me speaking?
Okay, right. So I will ask you a question on the round 2. Yes, Mr. Gopal, what did you ask?
Audio.
Yeah, you are audible, yes. Only thing you have to open your video.
Video is open, sir.
Okay, fine. Let me ask you a question. This question is about cash. All of us have one big question to, especially the MSME sector. There is no cash. Last 1 month, we are all at home. We are not selling anything. Nobody is buying anything from us. Other than the essentials, everybody is locked at home. There's no cash flow, and always MSMEs. I come from MSME sector. I know the ground reality that all the working capital, the ODs and CCs are always in the brim. It's not that they are cash-rich company like Google with the $85 billion. So there's no money. So how are we going to handle the cash flow problem? How are we going to handle the GST issues? How are we going to handle the income tax issues? Is there any IT returns possible early? Is there any GST refunds possible? Not IT return, IT refunds possible early, and GST refunds possible early. How do we bring cash to the company? That's the question.
Absolutely, sir. So yes, see, this has been an experience for everyone. It's been an experience and an eye-opener for everyone. We have never witnessed a situation like this before. So it is this kind of situation which actually stresses upon this point called having a strong cash reserve is very essential for any organization. Any organization, be it small or big, within your own level, you should have something called as an emergency cash reserve. It can be either you can have about 10 lakhs or 15 lakhs of money in your bank account, or you have, say, about 2 crores of working capital limit. You should always try to protect 15-20% of your working capital limit for situation like this. It's only situation like this we will learn and we will apply for the future. And on coming to your question, how to muster some money in the current situation. Anasa, can you show slide 3 of my presentation?
Yeah, 1 minute.
When I speak how to generate cash or how to improve your liquidity, we'll have to divide that into 2 aspects. One is how to build liquidity immediately. So we are going to start the business operation in about 1 week or 10 days time. How to build the liquidity immediately, and then the next challenge is how to ensure we keep up with the liquidity position over the course of the next 5 or 6 months or 9 months. How are we going to overcome these COVID times? So now, so to look at the initial funds, frankly, I'll be very honest to you, the scope for initial funds, the sources are just absolutely 1 or 2. The first thing is obviously you will have to look into your personal investments, your fixed deposits or something. You'll have to see something has to be plowed back from your personal investments, and you'll have to reinvest it back into your business. You don't have a choice. These are difficult times. You'll have to take some money from your personal investments and put it into your business. Always, when the business settles down over the course of few months, you can always feel free to draw that money out, and you can invest the money in your personal name. So that's one. The next thing is you'll have to speak to your bankers. I think most of the public sector banks, including SBI and many banks, they have brought something called as an emergency line of credit for the COVID times. Speak to your banker straight away and seek help from them for the emergency line of credit. It can vary from say 10% or 15%. Just avail that facility. And if you're working for say large projects or say large contracts, you can have a chat with your customer, make them aware about your current situation, and you can try to get some mobilization advance, some initial mobilization advance from your customer as well. These 3 are going to be the scope of funds for the initial liquidity part of it. Then I'll come to the sustenance part. How are we going to ensure liquidity over the course of next 6 months? Success story to ensure liquidity for the next 6 months will be to look deep into your working capital. When I say working capital, the 2 main ambits of working capital will be your receivables and your.
Gopal, I think there is internet net connection is little slow. So, Mr. Gopal, you need to start from sustenance part. From sustenance, you have to start.
So, can you hear me right now? So,
initial funds are clear. Yeah, you have to start from sustenance part. Go ahead.
Is my audio clear right now?
Yeah. Go ahead with the sustenance part. Yeah. Go ahead.
That is how to manage the liquidity for the next 6 months. Here, the challenge will be is to address your working capital aspect of it. So when I say the working capital, main link of the working capital is your receivables and your stock. So first we'll address the stock part. The stock will have to ensure, like I said before, you have to target the non-moving items. Then you should be realistic. You should have a realistic levels of inventory based on your anticipated levels of demand by consumption. So once we start the business on 3rd or 4th of May, we can have a fair sense of the demand by consumption for the next few months. Based on that, recalibrate your inventory to match the demand levels. No point in leveraging at a high level and keeping high levels of inventory. So look at your inventory levels. The next important point is you will have to the credit period of your receivables and the credit period of your payables. Both has to be in tune, because for an MSME, typically what they will have is they will pay in advance and have a very low credit period for your supply or for your expenses. On the contrary, you will have a higher credit period for your data. You held in a cash trap for the next few months. You will have to find some way, either speak to your debtors and try to bring down the credit period, or speak to your suppliers or speak to your vendors and push that. So just ensure both are on the same line. And finally, in these, making sales is one challenge. Collecting the money from your customers is going to be a bigger challenge.
Correct.
One of the bigger problem. Have a dedicated team of receivables. Okay, so you will have to win this battle only by following up your customers on a periodical basis. You cannot force them. You cannot say, I will not do delivery because it will not reflect upon good on you in these times. Only repeated follow-ups first. That is on the liquidity part of it. The next two I'll just quickly summarize. The second part is on the GST refunds and the income tax refunds. So the income tax refund happened roughly a couple of weeks back. The income tax refunds, the income tax department said that they are going to quickly process all refunds of quantum 5 lakhs or lower at the earliest. Like they said, they stood to that word. And a couple of days back, there was a press release which said that more than 5,200 crores of refund has been processed already. And another 7,700 crores of refund is also in the pipeline. But there was a small rider in that. They say close to about 1,75,000 or 1,34,000 lakh assets are yet to place a response to a query raised by the income tax department in their income tax portal.
Correct.
If the business entrepreneurs can reply to that, they say even those refunds can be processed in the next 1 week. So any business people, just check if there's any post, you will get your refund from the income tax department. The GST has also fastened up the refunds from that side.
Okay.
They have to put about 5,000 crores of refunds. And quickly, the next slide, page 4. Next slide, Anand sir, page 4. Yeah. What kind of credit facility is offered by bank? The first person to offer an additional line of credit was the State Bank of India. It's about 2 weeks back. I think in the last week of March, SBI came up with an additional emergency line of credit where they were ready to top up 10% of the existing working capital facility to all their existing customers at an attractive interest rate. On the same line, many of the PSU banks, the public sector banks like UCO Bank, BOB, they all came up with their own set of schemes to support existing customers. So if you're an entrepreneur who has these credit facilities, PSU bank, right away and avail those facility. And similarly, TIC has formulated a scheme called CORES, and CP has also offered a credit facility called SAFE. I have yet to come across any such additional line of credit from private banks. But I don't know whether they have not formulated or whether I have not come across, but I have seen such schemes from private banks. And I would also want the entrepreneurs to use this facility called TRAS, the Trade Receivable Discounting System, which has been formulated by the Reserve Bank of India exclusively for the MSME sector to raise funds by discounting their bills. The most important point is you can raise money by discounting your bills for default. So that's one important point. So that's my
wonderful. This the trade document is actually circulating across many places, and our chamber, Andhra chamber, we have a lot of exporters. Not only the retail and trading community, but we also have within India. We also have exporters because we have a certificate of origin, which is one of the pioneer services we have been doing for the last 50 years. So a lot of exporters, importers are there in our chamber as a member. I hope this thread is going to be of some help to them. I need to go through detail and take insights from people who are experts. So thank you, Mr. Gopal. I will move on to the third round. I think we are on time. So another 15 minutes, we'll be able to close this round 3. So I'd like to go with Dr. Raja. Dr. Raja, are you available? Yes. Yes, sir. One second, sir. I'm just opening the. The question to Dr. Raja is, sir, you talked about the health hazards in the first round. Then you talked about how are we going to handle as an SOP every single organization. Now, as a civil society, you and me and all of us, the health workers and the medicals, the technicians, the great staff nurses who are battling with this disease with patients, supporting them. I was told, I've been reading a lot of articles, even from your own blogs and your own website, I've been reading quite closely, that the prevention kits for the doctors and medicals are actually very limited in the country. From MSME perspective, there are a lot of MSMEs are manufacturing certain products. For example, mask people are manufacturing. A lot of people who are making masks, they are selling it. There are people who are making ventilators. The health industry is actually on the other side is picking up pretty fast in terms of business development. But on the contrary, what kind of support system as a civil society has to do for medicos and health workers? What is your thought on that? Because there are a lot of business people are watching this, and this video is going to be spread across the country. So please share your concern and your insights. Over to you.
Probably this is one thing which is close to my heart. This question. You see, if you look into the, because these are all business people, no, they would like numbers. You see, according to WHO statistics, India has roughly 2.5 beds per 1 lakh population. I'm talking about ICU beds. India has 2.5 ICU beds per 1 lakh population. Whereas America has 35 beds per 1 lakh population, ICU beds. Italy has roughly 14 to 16 beds per 1 lakh population. And UK has around 7 beds per 1 lakh population. These are the statistics of the number of beds that are available. Now, what we are doing is, currently the problem with COVID is not about how many people are getting infected, as I told before. It is about mortality rate. How many people are actually dying because of the problem? That is what is the most dangerous thing. Because as I told you, 90 out of 100 are actually recovering with just rest and quarantine alone. Because of the lockdown, what is going on, especially in rural areas. When I say rural areas, it is because 70% of Indian population is in rural areas. In those areas, like all other MSMEs, even the small hospitals, even the medium-sized hospitals have been shut down. Shut down means they were asked not to do outpatient services, as well as inpatient, as well as general elective surgeries. When you do not see a patient on time, over a period of time, patient is going to become, slowly the problem is going to increase. They will eventually come to emergency if there is a problem. So when they land up in emergency and ICU services, whether it is COVID or not, because we don't know when they come to our hospital, whether this is a COVID problem or not, we don't know, but we manage them as such. Now the new normal is every single patient, to protect yourself, you have to treat as if they are COVID positive patients. So you have to protect yourself and treat the other problem for which they have actually come to our hospital. Take for example, a patient comes with chest pain. We need to take care of that patient, but we don't know whether he has COVID in his body. You have to make sure that people who cannot manage social distancing, and you have to go near the patient. Doctor cannot follow social distancing, in emergency, doctor or patient.
Correct.
Most of the doctors and nurses who got affected and died because of COVID happened because of this. Because they could not manage social distancing, and you to treat the patient, you have to be nearby the patient. No, now that is where the current problem lies, especially for us. Patient comes, and we are there, and we have to manage the patient, and we have to now use the all the PPEs, as well as entire patient pathway needs to be sterilized. It has to be disinfected. Now, these are operational expenses which have been increased now for every place. So a patient, what we are doing, for example, even I represent an organization called SIPACA, where we do ICU services in rural areas. In different hospitals, we are currently doing around 250 beds. We are managing ICU and emergency services across different hospitals, 12 to 13 hospitals. Now, when a patient comes, you have to think that he could be having COVID in his body, but you have to attend to the patient wearing all the PPEs. Who will bear that cost? In one shift, for example, I wore that attire. It's extremely uncomfortable. You can't even breathe properly. When you put on the goggles to write the case sheet, the lighting is not sufficient because so much you have to cover yourself. Now, with that, a person can do 6 hours of duty maximum. So just imagine 6 hours, one doctor, 5-6 nurses, technician, ward boy, housekeeping people, everybody have to wear that now to protect themselves. If you do that, that expenses per shift itself will come to at least 3,000 rupees minimum, bare minimum. And per day it increases to 10,000 rupees, bare minimum. Now that either hospital has to bear it, or that part either hospital has to bear it, or patient has to bear it. Normally, it has to be added in the patient's cost. That is how hospitals operate. No, even whether a patient has to buy and give it, or it has to be added in the patient's cost. Now the problem is, like everybody else, even patients got affected economically, financially, so they cannot afford to it. So in rural areas, we have been seeing many patients are finally they say, sir, 2-3 days is over, we cannot bear this cost, we will go home. Because in the other government setups, they were not comfortable to go. I also have certain things to say as far as the healthcare providers are concerned. Whether you are providing ventilators or the PPEs, we have to understand that if the beds are less, many areas our people have increased beds. It is very easy. In a 1 month time, you can add 200, 300 cots and ventilators. Anything you can manufacture over a day's time. But who will manage them? You can't have every person to manage that. No, you need skill for that. Ventilator management is not that easy. When patient really goes into serious situation, you have to have doctors and nurses trained in it. You don't even have currently in India, one doctor for 50,000 population is what is the current ICU trained doctors ratio. The problem is, if you don't use your PPEs here, proper attire here, these doctors are at risk. So we have seen in India, a few doctors died in the recent times. It has become a big issue publicly. So that is the current situation. So we also require certain support for the PPEs, not for us actually, for the patients. Ultimately, if you cannot treat the patient is the person who is going to suffer ultimately. But with the humanitarian grounds, if you skip that part and go on try to help the patient, what if the healthcare professional gets affected? And if one person gets affected, you are losing one person for 10,000 people roughly. So many lives will be at stake. Imagine if you have 4 trained ICU doctors in one rural area. Let us take one taluk area. Let us say there are 4 ICU trained doctors. One person goes. need not die. Even with disease, he goes for quarantine. Do you know the 1 lakh population that is being catered by that area? Those 10,000, 20,000 extra people have to be catered by only 3 people. That extra burden, somewhere it will affect the quality of care for the rest of the population. This is the time I would say that we need to protect these people and give them their space, protection and time, which is actually not for them. It is for the society to survive.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Raja. This is really, it's really touching because we the kind of treatment one of the medicos, one of the doctor recently died out of COVID is something which is all of us know. We are reading in press, which is shameful. It's a very shameful gesture. Thank you. It's very touching, and I think we need to really look into how we can support each other in the process. So let me move on to thank you very much, Raja, because the round 3 is completed, and in a couple of minutes we'll be able to close this panel, sir. We are taking our time. You may be right now in your preoccupation in the hospital. So, Mr. Rajesh, I'd like to quickly go to the second question for the third round. Is it okay? Are you available?
Yeah, available. Yeah.
Yeah, Rajesh, the consumptions. The consumptions, if you look at it, the data says 26% of the expenditure goes for food, 70% on not tourism, transport. Goods and services, 17%. Is only at 4.5%. Of course, housing, water, electricity, gas, fuel are 13%. Keeping this in view, as you rightly said in the beginning also Mr. Gopal said, spend money on luxury items now. Nobody wants to can go for changing the vehicles, better vehicles, luxury vehicles, anything which is related to luxury. So keeping that in view, how do you look at this side, the business owner, the MSME, the entrepreneur? But he has to thrive, he has to sell, he has to revenue, he has to generate his revenue, he has to scale up his business. So how the brand trust, how the branding also plays, I guess, a vital role here. How an organization can thrive in this current situation of dealing with customers who are not inclined to spend money to buy any luxury items. Over to you.
Yeah, that's a good question, Anand. On one side, we are seeing people moving and they need certain things like in terms of healthcare and support. They need certain things desperately. So what if, for example, if you are a luxury brand or if you are a premium brand which is selling non-essential things which people don't consider at this point of time, one clear thing which you can do, one specific thing which you can do is bring that CSR element into your business. For example, you could say that the proceeds of this sale goes to certain initiatives which is going on now. It could be healthcare initiative of the government or a hospital or anything of that sort. If you can add that as a value proposition into your business, because your customers, especially high-end customers, premium customers and luxury customers are well off. So if you your product or marketing, clearly it becomes a good branding advantage for you. People have a reason. Everybody wants to do something to the society, especially when you're doing something conspicuous, when you're purchasing something like real estate, cars, or anything which is not required at this point of time. If you can give me a reason saying that if you buy this, a part of this goes to this initiative, it again evokes some emotion and people may consider buying it. Another way of looking at it is one good example, which even when we discussed, especially for real estate companies, you have shared a wonderful insight as how we can go and tap into new market segments. Like, for example, if you are a real estate business, during that discussion, I've understood that most of the NRIs are thinking back to invest their money, hard-earned money in the Indian market. India has got good positive perception when it comes to rebounds. So again, how we can tap into the segments, new customer segments, which are byproducts, which are well off. See, when it comes to essential and non-essential, there are few things. It's all about perception. At a higher end of the consumer segment, what could be the essential and non-essential is totally different. From at the bottom of the pyramid is essential and non-essential is entirely different. So when you talk about customer segments, especially high-end customer segments, they're not real estate. I would say they may not avoid it purely. They may consider it. Car buying, they may consider it, provided if the value proposition or a reason to buy enough is very strong for them, especially in the case of NRIs who might consider buying more properties in their native place in India. Maybe, for example, if you see car consumption may be reduced, but once after this lockdown is over, if the public transport is shut down for a longer time, which I think may happen for the next 2-3 months, Ola and Uber demand will be more for cabs like Ola and Uber. Car shortages may come. Maybe car companies can think, instead of selling cars to end consumers, how can we serve this market? Like Ola and demand created from Ola and Uber. Why can we engage with Ola and Uber directly and provide some car population? So I think if we ask questions, relevant questions, we can increase the consumption at will. If we talk to the right customer segment, talk to them in the language which we are willing to listen. If we do all these things, I think we can willingly increase the consumption, especially in non-essential product segments.
Good. Very nice. Nice, Rajesh. In fact, this is what me, Rajesh, we were discussing last 2 days about this webinar. Some of the friends from our said that no more the money is safe there. So kind of a scary situation. So why not we invest back in India? So ideally, they are also looking at the real estate business. Also, people are ready to invest in small startups. People want to invest some 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs. That's a cash flow for MSMEs. If you have friends and relatives who are in abroad and who have a lot of money in USD and Singapore dollars, and they want to invest back safely in India, probably they can venture into your business as an investor. That is one of the options what me and Mr. Rajesh were discussing. Thank you, Rajesh, for quoting that information here. I'll go to the round 3 last question. We are actually exceeding our time limits. Sorry, dear participants, we are dragging your time. Maybe next 5 minutes, I'll wrap up this panel discussion. Mr. Gopal, I'd like to ask you this question. Is the moratorium and RBI schemes announced by government seems to have both pros and cons. It is not always plus. A lot of challenges. For example, when some of my friends asked me like EMI, they said moratorium for 3 months. The moment we step into the bank and ask this question, they'll say you got to pay heavy interest down the line, and you need to go for a kind of a top-up loan. The loan is deferred, the interest is deferred, but yet you have to pay your interest. On the efficacy as a subject matter expert on the government schemes to MSMEs.
And just the page 5 of my presentation answer.
Yeah, sure, I'll do that.
So the participant here will be aware of the moratorium. Not going into the technical aspects of the moratorium. I just want to highlight some of the points which is. So, for example, first of all, it's not a waiver. It's just it's just postponing your EMI to by 3 months. So you postpone your current EMI with the interest portion will be converted into a principal. Interest will be charged. It's not just your 3 months of EMI is getting postponed. You will actually end up paying more EMIs than your current level of EMI. Your EMIs can be increased by 1, 2, or 3, or 4 depending upon the type of your loan. So the EMI is going to increase. Have that in mind. And for a working capital facility, the moratorium says they will not charge you interest on a monthly basis for the months of, say, March and May. They're not going to charge you on a monthly basis. But the catch is, the 3 months of interest has to be served and paid immediately after the end of this period. So when we say the end of this period, we are speaking of 31st May or 1st of June. So typically a working capital loan might be 5 crores or 10 crores. A monthly interest will be a significant money. When 3 months of working capital interest is served at one go on 31st May or 1st June, it's going to be a huge working capital nightmare, which the entrepreneurs will be ready when they are avail this. So my conclusion is, if you have some cash flow, so I mean, when I say cash flow, it's going to be difficulty. If you can somehow manage the situation and if you can muster the cash flow, please avoid the moratorium on your working capital facility or your EMI. Just simply pay it, so that because you don't have to pay extra months of EMI, or you don't want of interest to be on. So that's on the moratorium part of it. The monetary policy, I would say the recent monetary policy which was announced on the 17th of April by the Reserve Bank of India, it's been a good policy where they have focused on many of the macroeconomic indicators. So first of all, they have reduced the reverse repo rate to 3.15%, reduced the liquidity coverage ratio to 80%, which according to me is a good push, because these two measures indirectly pressurizing or forcing the banks to go out and lend. So the banks are playing a defensive, are parking their money with the Reserve Bank of India. They don't want to lend any money right now and get into NPA. They said, Reserve Bank of India said, no boss, you just have to go enter the market and start lending. That's a good measure. And the second part of it, they have extended a 50,000 crores of lifeline to NBFC and microfinance. Both of them are in this market. And protecting the interest of NBFC is good in a sense. I've been reading some articles and newspaper presses in the last 2 years. Many NBFCs are reaching out to MSME, because for MSME, getting a loan from finance from NBFC is quite easy and quite faster. So many MSME are reaching out to NBFCs. So if you protect the interest of NBFC, automatically interest of some of the will also be high. And then the next point is they have also allocated about 50,000 crores to lending institutions like NABARD, SIDBI, and the National Housing Bank. So out of this 50,000 crores, 50,000 crores that has been allocated to SIDBI, which is the primary body for the MSME sector in India. So which is 50,000 crores of money is a good push for the MSME sector. Overall, I would say RBI policy 2.0 has been a good push for the economy as a whole. It has tried to protect the interest of the NBF, microfinance company. It has taken into interest of the lending institutions with catch to agriculture and MSMEs. And they've also increased the limits, though I'm not pointing here, they have also funding limits to governments to the current situation as well. So overall, they have taken into account the interest of the major bodies in the country. Only thing is that people perception is expecting RBI to bring in more stimulus for MSMEs and exporters in particular. Probably that also they left a cryptic note in RBI 2.0 where they said they are checking into each and every sector. They are looking at each and every sector, every industry, and see what kind of stress levels and what kind of problem they are facing. They are going to bring some industry-specific stimulus in next probably 3.0 or 4.0. So that is my insight on the moratorium and monetary policy.
Good. Thank you very much. This elaborate insights. In fact, of course, we discussed a lot on this during our offline. Thank you very much. I think we have come to the end of the panel discussions on this subject. I'd like to quickly take one or two questions from the participants. If you have any questions, you can put it in chat box or you can put it in a Q&A room. I'll take those questions. One question somebody asked me, like, I think this can be addressed by Dr. Raja, is that, see, we are receiving newspapers every day, let's say. So can we receive physical newspaper, or can we go into the e-newspaper?
Is this for me?
Yeah, it's for Dr. Raja. With respect to health hazard, yeah.
Okay, it's not just newspaper. If you are buying groceries, if you are buying even a biscuit packet or anything from outside, at this point of time, when you bring it inside, okay, either you have to clean it with the disinfectant, like, something like Sterilium or alcohol-based hand rub. So you cannot do that with newspaper. So best thing would be to leave it under the sun for 1 or 2 hours. As a newspaper, you get it in the morning, no? Leave it in the sun for 1 or 2 hours, and after that you may take it and read it. Because the virus will live on the inanimate objects on surfaces for 6 to 8 hours in cold climate, 2 to 3 hours in hot climates. This is one of the reasons why we have less incidents of COVID in India. So lucky for South Indians especially, sun is protecting us.
Thank you, Dr. Raja. You answered the question rightly. So there's a sub question here. There are a couple of essential services, like for example, vegetables. We go to the shop and buy, and then we buy fruits. Then we get medicines from pharmacy, the local pharmacy for elderly people, whatever. So how do we handle those things? Should we also have to same mechanism of 4 to 5 hours, keep it outside and in the hot sun and then use it, or how do we sanitize and how do we use that? This is for a common question, not just MSME.
This is what we are following at home. That is why I am confidently saying that. If and all, maybe you can wash them in hot water. You take a bucket of hot water, okay, and then not hot means not boiling water, hot water, okay, and with salt, warm water, yeah. Yes, warm water with salt, and then immerse the vegetables in that. Wait for some time and then take it out. The vegetables will not pose a threat for you because ultimately you are going to boil them. You are not consuming them raw. Okay. See, boiling will definitely kill the virus. If you are going to consume something raw, maybe it is better to wash them in warm water, salt. Okay. And the items which you cannot wash, keep them in the sun for some time. It will get automatically sterilized. For example, newspaper, any packets for that matter of fact. Okay. And things that you can clean, for example, car keys or the mobile, you clean them with the alcohol based solutions. And when you come back, if you are going outside, when you come back home, it is preferable to wash, clean your hands before you touch anybody. Okay. When I go to, I am doing duties inside the unit, COVID unit. Once I reach home, of course, I wear all the protective suit. Once I reach home, I take bath, full shower, and then wear a new set of dress, and then only I get inside.
Good. Thank you so much. I think we have come to the end of this panel discussion. There are 2 questions somebody asked me. Madam, 1 minute. 2 questions have been posted by 2 participants. Of course, I would like to connect them to the respective experts offline. One is from Mr. Hariram Gupta from Kanjipuram. He was asking about working capital without collateral. Is it possible from bank? Mr. Hariram Gupta, I will connect you separately with the MSME expert who will be able to support you what best can be done. The second is Mr. Karthik Gurumurthy asked a question which is connected to international trade. We have Mr. R.R. Padmanabhan, who is our international trade chairman, who is also present in this webinar right now. The question is, he asked about international trade revival, especially transport shipping industry, post-lockdown release. So this question will be responded to you from our international trade chairman, Mr. Padmanabhan. I will connect you separately. You can be in touch with us through email. I will share the email ID right now after the session is over. Over to Mrs. Vijayalakshmi.
So I have a question to Mr. Dr. Raja Amarnath. I am from the Chamber of Commerce, Andhra Chamber of Commerce, and we get at least 20 to 25 participants. As far as the social distancing is concerned, what you say for the programs and other things, we can follow this. Whereas, for the certificate of origin, we get at least 20 to 25 participants in a day who comes with set of papers, and then they give that set of papers. We have to go through that, and then we have to give a certificate, and then they have to go with that. So they also come and then they sit in the reception for 5-6 people can sit in the reception. So how do you think that a better measure can be followed, to keep that in place?
As I told you, handling papers. At this point of time, handling papers, okay? If it is not essential, leave them in a place where the temperature is more than 37 degrees Celsius, and wait for a couple of hours before you handle them. That is number one. Number two, that is essential to handle immediately. You may clean your hands with the alcohol-based hand rub and then you go through the papers. Be extremely careful during that time not to touch your face. Especially we have Indians, we have this habit of touching, the tongue, sticking for the turning of the pages. Don't do that. Once your work is over, you can again, clean your hands thoroughly with the alcohol-based hand rub. Then go on with your work.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Vijayalakshmi, I was told by one doctor from US on a webinar that we are touching 23 times in an hour our faces. Yeah. So thank you very much. I think we have come to the end of the session. There are about 65 participants stayed this course webinar for more than about 1.5 hours. So thank you so much, each and every one of you, all the executive committee members, all the members of our chamber, our Madam President, our Vice President, all the senior officials of our Chamber of Commerce and Secretary General, everybody. Thank you very much, panelists, Dr. Raja Amarnath, Mr. Rajesh Srinivasan, Mr. Gopalakrishnan Nadesan. Thank you, wonderful, and you have shared your insight. Very, very useful to all of us. I will record this. I've been recording this video ever since we started. I will upload it in the YouTube and share it with all the participants down the line. I think with this, I'll be able to end up this session. Madam Vijayalakshmi,
feedback can be shared.
Yeah. After automatically, all of you get one feedback form. You can share your feedback. It will be very helpful for us. More often, such workshops will be organized from other committees also. So we will write back to you with more programs down the line through webinar. And once the lockdown period is over, we'll be able to offer seminar also offline. So stay connected, stay safe, and final slide of mine is this. So take care. And this is the email ID of ours. You can write to us. We will keep in touch with you. Thank you very much, one and all, for connecting with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you, panelist.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks, Madam President.